for March 7th, 2022. Again, I want to thank all of the CCP members for being here. I believe DA Smithcamp will be here shortly, we hope. But we do want to go ahead and get going. We have a pretty full agenda this afternoon. Just a couple of housekeeping notes here. Just to want to remind all of the CCP members to please speak clearly into your mic. We are live streaming the proceedings today, and we will also be on all of our votes. We'll be doing a roll call vote just to make sure that we can make sure that all of the folks that are not able to be here can understand and hear the results of any kind of votes that we do make. I do want to let the public know that the Community Corrections Partnership welcomes you to this meeting and encourages your participation. This agenda contains a brief general description of each item to be considered. The chair will call for public comment as each item is heard. For those who are present physically in the meeting and wish to speak to an individual item. If you wish to speak on a matter which does not appear on the agenda today, you may do so during the public comment period under agenda item I. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. I see District Attorney Smithcamp is here, and we will go ahead and get moving. And we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order this afternoon. And under agenda, how you doing? Agenda item B, we will ask for approval of the minutes from our December 13th, 2021 meeting. And then also, I'm sorry. Second, is there any public comment in regard to the minutes of our December 13th, 2021 meeting? Any public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll come back and we will, it's been moved and seconded, and we're going to ask for a roll call vote. Chief Haynes, aye. DA Smithcamp? Aye. Public Defender Tylat? Sheriff Mims? Chief Dadian?
Aye.
CEO Elliott?
Aye.
And Interim Director Susan Holt?
Aye.
And motion carries, and those minutes will stand approved as noted. And under agenda item C, under announcements, I do have one announcement, and I don't know if Chief Dadian wants to make this announcement, but Chief Derek Blevins, he retired as our alternate police chief from as a representative in Fresno County to the CCP, and the Fresno County police chiefs have voted and have identified Chief Kurt Fleming from Clovis PD to become the alternate. Is that correct, Chief Dadian?
That's correct, Chief. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll just make a note that Chief Fleming anytime that Chief Dadian is not able to appear or to be able to be here at the meeting, then Chief Fleming will be available. All right. Public comment regarding that announcement. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item D. Under consent, we have one consent item, and that's our vacancy and position control report. I'm going to ask for a motion to accept the consent item.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Chief Dadian and second by Ms. Holt that the consent item be approved. Any public comment in regard to this into this item? Any public comment at all? All right, seeing none, we'll call the roll call vote. Chief Haynes, aye. DA Smithcamp? Public Defender Tylat?
Aye.
Sheriff Mims?
Aye.
Chief Dadian?
Aye.
CEO Elliott?
Aye.
And Interim Director Holt?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries, and the consent item is approved. All right, moving on to agenda item E, we're going to receive our fiscal year 2021-22 report and fund balance presentation from Deputy Chief Samantha Buck from the Probation Department.
Actually,
Afternoon,
Margaret's
Samantha.
going to cover the first part.
And sorry, we also have Staff Analyst Margaret Arona here also to give this presentation. Let's make sure that mic is on. No, hit the button.
It's on now?
There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Chief, and it's a pleasure speaking at this meeting this afternoon. I just want to let you know that this is our second quarter fiscal report. And as I go through it, I will be giving approximate totals in your handout. You do have the exact totals. And if there are any questions, I will be available after the presentation. Okay. With the Sheriff's Department, they have expended approximately $12.1 million, which is a total of $49, 49% of their annual budget. Probation has expended $5.9 million, totaling 41% of their annual budget. District Attorney's Office has expended approximately $810,000, totaling 53% of their annual budget. The Public Defender's Office has expended approximately $560,000, totaling 39% of their annual budget. Behavioral Health has expended approximately $424,000, totaling 23% of their annual budget. The City of Fresno has expended approximately $762,000, totaling 48% of their annual budget. The City of Clovis has expended approximately $173,000, totaling 28% of their annual budget. The City of Selma has expended approximately $81,000, totaling 42% of their annual budget. The City of Greeley has expended approximately $71,000, totaling 43% of their annual budget. The City of Kingsburg has expended approximately $82,000, totaling 49% of the annual budget. And the City of Kerman has expended approximately $10,000, totaling 5% of their annual budget. So overall, the CCP has expended approximately $21 million, totaling 44% of the annual budget.
Thank you, Margaret. Any questions from the CCP in regard to the, at least the initial presentation for where we are fund balance wise? Any questions? Any public comment regarding this, this portion of the presentation? Seeing none, thank you, Margaret. I appreciate your diligence there. I think I would make one note in regard to Kerman Police Department. I know they recently filled one of their positions on the ACT team, and so that's why they've only expended just such a small amount of their budget. And we may have Manuel Silva talk a little bit more about that during the ACT subcommittee presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. And now we're going to have Deputy Chief Samantha Buck to do the presentation for our fund balance.
Good afternoon, Samantha Buck with the Probation Department. And I'm going to be providing you with a recap of the fund balance, which is similar to what we reported out back in December. Going into 21-22, we had an estimated $17.5 million available. For 21-22, the estimated allocation came in at $47 million with a growth allocation of 8.5. So all total a 21-22 allocation of $55.6 million. We're still on trend to projected to end the year at $45.3 million in expenditures with an estimated interest of $349,000. And it looks like we will end 21-22 adding approximately $10.7 million to fund balance, bringing us to $28.2 million for 22-23. Now, since the CCP agenda was published, we received another estimate for the 21-22 growth estimate, and there's an increase of approximately $1 million. So it looks like the growth will now be $9.5 million and not $8.5 million, and we'll report that out at the next CCP.
Thank you, Sam. Any questions regarding the fund balance presentation? Seeing none. Any public comment in regard to the fund balance presentation? All right, seeing none. Thank you so much, Sam. Appreciate that. Before you leave, Sam, I am going to ask the CCP if we can move item G up to item F now, so that we can go ahead and have Sam go ahead and give us some direction on the preparation of our budget. So we're going to go, instead of F, we're going to take F next, but we're going to go ahead and do G now, which would be to provide direction regarding the preparation of the fiscal year 22-23 CCP AB 109 budget.
Yes, and we're requesting it be prepared at the current service level.
Any questions in regard to that? So yeah, we would just ask at the March, prior to the March meeting, I should ask this, Sam, prior to our June meeting, when would you want to have that information from the departments so that you have time?
Check that to the county's budget director for the budget schedule.
This Greg Ranke. Really, what normally happens is you actually approve the budget in September, just before the board meeting, and so just before the budget hearings for Fresno County, and so
Okay.
as long as they're approved prior to the budget hearings and it matches what's in the budget documents, that's all that matters.
Okay, so Sam, what we would do is we can send a notice to let the individual departments know so that we can have this information prepared for the June meeting. We'd be able to give them whatever that deadline is to have that information ready, posted in, so that you can take a look at that and do whatever work we need to do for.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the CCP? Any public comment in regard to this item? Seeing none, thank you. I appreciate it, Sam. All right, and then now we're going to move on to item G, would be to consider, discuss, and take action to rescind prior recommendation to fund 250 GPS monitoring units. And I'm going to speak to this, but also I'm going to ask CEO Elliott to also to help to explain. At our last meeting back in December, we did ask the CCP to add 250 GPS units in order to supplement the existing number of GPS units that were being used for the pretrial program. Because we saw that there had been a pretty significant increase in the utilization of GPS units. And so we wanted to have that ability to have some additional units set aside for this remainder of the year. So Mike, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that at all?
Sure. The state, through the Judicial Council, has awarded the Fresno Superior Court basically a 3-year pretrial dollar amount. There's 2 different pots of money. One is and maybe Sam can jump in here too if she chooses to. So the dollar amount is each year can be allocated 70% to the people doing the supervision, and 30% or up to 30% can be kept by the court. What that is this year is $1.7 million about. And then there's the one time, so it's year over year, use it or lose it at 1.7, and that's the number as of today. There could be growth money attached to that each and every year. And then as of today, over the 3 years, there's $3.1 million that can be used anytime within the 3 years, but it's also a use it or lose it. So, and that could be tied to growth also. In essence, there's approximately probably $6 million up in the air, plus or minus, for supervision. What we found that, and we found, we got the details after the CCP took action on the GPS units. We've had our budget person and Sam, I believe our budget person Queenie, has talked to the state. This is certainly reimbursable, and we can pay for this through this pot of money. I think what has to happen before the official transfer of money occurs is the MOU has to be approved by the board, which is going to happen March 22nd.
That's correct.
Once that occurs, then as long as we receive the appropriate billing information, then the probation department can receive the money. So basically it's another, I don't know, $500,000 that Sam would have to worry about that we're over next year.
So in essence, what's good is that we were able to utilize the Judicial Council funding for the expansion of our pretrial program, and that would include some money set aside for those GPS units. So we wanted to advise the CCP that we, rather allow that funding that would have gone to those GPS units to be able to utilize.
And on top of that, just the expenditure for this, GPS units. We're, once the MOU is signed, we're up against a wall on spending the money for this year. So we're hoping that hiring can be expedited and all those kind of things, because it is, in essence, 1.2 million that if it's not spent from the time of the MOU until June 30th, then it goes back to the state, and then we start again for the next year for the next one. That's why we've been working with probation to try and expedite, and I know sure the county would not want to give back any money. So.
Any questions from the CCP regarding this item?
Chief Haynes,
Yes,
I
go
just have a comment. I just want to make sure that on record, this money was never allocated. It was just recommended by the CCP.
Right.
So I just want to make.
And we may ask Deputy Chief David Reese to come up and just talk a little bit about the state of where we are with GPS devices. Could you come up, Dave, and just talk a little bit about that?
Good afternoon, David Reese with probation. As regarded to pretrial, so we came to the board, we were at about 250, well, at our maximum of units. And we did not want to create a waiting list for the court and hold people up. And so that's why we came to the board for that. What's happened is cases either through a court moving on, cases have settled. And so we really dropped down. We're about close to 200 right now. So we have some wiggle room with about 50 units. So we never actually went to the company and knowing what we were planning with the court to add those additional units. I think what's nice about what we're going to be doing with the court is we're actually going to expand our program, and we're going to find some efficiencies with the company actually doing the monitoring of these individuals and notifying us at real time now versus our staff having to do it after the fact. So we're pretty excited about that piece. With the money that we're going to get from the court as well, we're going to get a full-time installer. So we don't have to keep inventory of all the units. We're going to have someone from the company help us with that piece. So we're really excited. We're hoping that time will then be translated into doing more efficient timely reports for the court to get more people on the pretrial program so that we grow it. So we're roughly, what, Cayetana, so we're at 640 right now total on the pretrial program with about 200 on GPS. And so things are going well. We're growing, and we're excited about the opportunity to expand as well. So we're just fortunate that we didn't go into contract. We knew this money was coming. We took our time. So like Greg mentioned, we never actually went and changed the contract with the company, which we're now in negotiations to do that as well.
Great. Can you talk a little bit about the after hours monitoring of what we plan on doing?
Absolutely.
In
So
partnership with the court?
after some discussion, we're going to be running, once the MOU is signed and we move forward with the staffing, is we're going to be monitoring individuals on pretrial supervision after hours as well. And so we'll have the ability to actually respond, take care of issues. We did some work. We had a meeting with the sheriff, and we invited some law enforcement folks in the court. And we did some work on, the busy times when we have alerts or when we have violations of GPS. And what we found is it's usually up to 10 o'clock at night for the most part, and then a few in the early morning hours. So most of it is always that swing type of shift, that late afternoon shift. So we'll be able to address issues. And it always is not always like an arresting. It's like, hey, just charge your unit. Hey, you're close to a zone you're not supposed to be in. Or if our law enforcement partners have an issue with an individual and we can do something to avoid them getting arrested if it's not a new crime, we'll also try to do that, like utilize Belgravia, sobering center, get people into inpatient treatment instead of not necessarily just always bringing them back into custody, but giving them alternatives. So then ensure they show up to court, obviously. But when there's CPO issues, victim issues, we're definitely going to act on those. And that would probably be a resetting of bail and return to custody on some of those individuals. So we're building that piece out right now as we speak. And we hope to maybe once we get going, we'll come back to the CCP and kind of give you a presentation of how things are going, give you some of our kind of historical numbers and see where we're growing.
And I think maybe at future CCP meetings, maybe post MOU, there might be some other financial help that we can give to subsidize, maybe assisting after hours supervision from other law enforcement agencies.
deal. Any other questions from CCP or comments? Any public comment regarding this item under, regarding these GPS? All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve this item. Been moved and seconded that we would approve this item, and we're going to go through a roll call vote. Chief Haynes, aye. DA Smitkamp. Public Defender Tylak.
Aye.
Sheriff Mims. Chief Dadian.
Aye.
CEO Elliott.
Aye.
And Interim Director Holt.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you so much. Moving on to item H, to receive verbal reports and approve recommendations, if any, from the CCP subcommittees. And we're going to start with our Resources Development Subcommittee, and that's under Assistant Deputy Chief Brian Crump. And he is looking sharp today. Look at him.
Good afternoon, Brian Crump from Probation Department. I'm here to update you on the activities of the Resource Development Committee since our last meeting in December. At that time, our committee had a number of meetings to prepare a couple of proposals which have been sent to the members of the board today from the Public Defender's Office and from the District Attorney's Office. As discussed in the prior meetings, these proposals are requests for enhanced staffing to assist individuals remove qualifying convictions from their criminal records. Both these proposals were endorsed by the committee in that they provided defendants with an opportunity to remove criminal convictions from their records, which are a barrier to integration in society. Additionally, the committee met in late February to discuss, look at the current RFP being prepared by the Department of Behavioral Health for mental health and substance abuse treatment for realignment defendants. The committee members did present some input to committee member Erliana Bang that were incorporated into the latest draft of the RFP. That's going to conclude my update for the Resource Development Committee's activities. However, at this time, I'd like to invite committee members Jason Sorensen from the Public Defender's Office and Stephen Wright from the District Attorney's Office to provide any more information regarding their proposals, which is the Clean Slate proposal for the Public Defender's Office and Trust But Verify program from the District Attorney's Office.
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Jason Sorensen. I'm the Assistant Public Defender, and I'm here to answer any questions you have about the Clean Slate program. Also, kind of give you an idea of what it's about if those of you that aren't familiar with the Clean Slate program. Started back in 2017. It was something that was partially funded by the economics, EOC, and also the, get my glasses on, the Workforce Development Board. And basically they were funding a part-time position that allowed an attorney and one part-time paralegal to process these applications. And usually they were applications that were received from those entities to work on clearing people's records that had basically completed their sentences and paid restitution. Basically having an impact on them receiving employment, getting housing, getting funding for educational purposes and those things. But since that, the need for it has really dramatically increased due to the internet and putting it out there through our website saying, hey, if you have a criminal record and you qualify, we can assist you if you're indigent in getting your record cleared. And since then, we've received thousands of applications to do this. And unfortunately, one part-time attorney and one part-time paralegal does not meet that need. Actually, we have a situation where at 1.3 months ago, we had a backlog of approximately almost 400 cases. We also had a wait time of about 4 to 6 weeks before you could even really contact anybody to address their need. There was also then a wait time to get the petitions filed. And so this need wasn't being met. And so when we spoke with Brian about an idea of coming up with some resources that we could fund an attorney position, full-time attorney position, and a full-time paralegal position so that we could address the need, address the backlog, and stay on top of it. Since then, we had to Obviously, we've been dealing with this for several months now, trying to address that need. We actually had to pull somebody that was a normal attorney into assisting the part-time attorney with dealing with this backlog. Since then, there's been a drop from the approximately 400 applications down to 63 that need to be reviewed now. And now it's about processing the petitions and getting them to court and getting them heard. Once that is taken care of, we can, hopefully get this funding for this position. We can then eventually stay on top of it, and we won't have that backlog, and people's needs will be addressed. And ultimately, lack of better words, it removes that scarlet letter that a person has when they have that criminal record, and they've basically stayed out of trouble, and they've served their sentence. And we think that that really addresses the AB 109 needs, and it helps the community. You get that reduction in recidivism. I know that as an attorney for 22 years, and 17 of those years were spent on the public defender's office, a vast majority of my clients and people that I've talked to within my office always talk about the issue of the reason the individuals are, or at least why they're in there, they don't have jobs. And one of the big impediments to that is that they do not, it's difficult for them when they have a criminal record. And especially, I touched an example on how one person was able to get her record cleared, and how that helped her and facilitated her ability to rehabilitate and come back and reintegrate into the community. For those of you that don't know what the Clean Slate program does, just in a nutshell, it allows the person to file a petition so that when the court sees that and all the boxes are checked off, the court then allows the individual to have a not guilty or a finding of guilt withdrawn. They then are allowed to have a not guilty entered into their record, and the case is dismissed, so that they can legally say when they apply on a job application or a school loan or housing application, they can say that legally they were not convicted of that. Now, that does not exclude the case or the charges completely. Obviously, police would have access to those records. That would, the DA's office would have. But for private entities, it would preclude them that, and it would also preclude them from considering it in an application.
No, interesting, and I think sounds like a great program. I did have a chance to read the letter that was attached to your proposal, which I thought was really cool. But and does this also include like the community engagement that you talked about, that work that would be included in that, or is it just going to be for the processing of the case information?
No, the program really deals, and why it's so cumbersome for the Clean Slate is that you have inquiries, which are basically your emails in, your phone calls, your letters from individuals that ask if they qualify. Once those inquiries are processed, then it becomes, okay, now you have to fill out this application. Then you go through the application process. Then there's a consultation with the client. And they go through their criminal history. They do background checks. They go through the case files to see if they're eligible for expungement. Then it would also, as part of this, the inquiries and application process, there would be the outreach. A lot of these programs that we do outreach for our root and rebound veterans court, where they actually set up shops so that they can go through these applications with individuals that may be seeking to get their records expunged. So that's part of it. And then of course it would go on from there. The petition needs to be filed. And then after that, it's going to court with the individual to address any questions that the DA's office or the court may have.
Okay, Sheriff, I think you had a question.
So when these are expunged and they have then the cleans, what about if they're prohibited from possessing or owning a firearm?
That does not have anything to do with the owning or possessing of a firearm.
So they
That's a
would
total
still be
different statute.
prohibited?
Correct.
Thank you.
This is merely to preclude individuals, it's preclude private entities from being able to say, like you wanted to apply for a job. You, as an individual that got your record expunged, could say, I had the case dismissed, I was not convicted of this. And so therefore, they can't consider it on an employment application. So it kind of protects them a little bit in saying, look, it's no longer there. But of course, for other entities, it may be like law enforcement, they would be able to get access to that and see that.
Any other questions from the CCP?
Is there a threshold on the number of convictions? As an example, 1, 2, 3?
My understanding is from the individuals that work on these cases is that sometimes there are individuals that may have 20 misdemeanor convictions. And they're eligible to apply, and they have to go through each separate case, make sure that the individual served their sentence, paid their fines, paid their restitution before they can even apply. So it's not just about, oh, it's just one case. It could be multiple cases.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have anything else? All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And then we also have Steve Wright here from the District Attorney's Office.
Thank you.
You don't have much to say, but.
No, thank you, Chief, and members of the CCP. Mr. Sorensen, I'm Steve Wright, DA's office. Mr. Sorensen did a good job of laying out the process of the Clean Slate program. The Trust But Verify program would be the district attorney's, I don't say counterpart, but as everybody knows, the criminal justice system can only be efficient if all of the parts of the system are fully funded and working towards that end goal. And so the district attorney's portion would be to receive petitions that are filed by the defense and to then research them, make sure, as Mr. Sorensen would say, that the defendant had complied with all of the of the court, paid their fines, made restitution and all those sorts of things, so that we could then either sign off saying, yes, they are eligible as a matter of law, or no, they're not eligible, and this is what they need to do to then become eligible.
Okay, sure.
Time limit. Do the convictions have to have occurred within a certain time before they can apply? Or is it just after all those conditions? It's like you still have to be clean for 2 years or 3 years.
I believe they have to have successfully completed probation or completed their term of probation. And I can go back as far as
They can have it expunged immediately.
they can at least start the process.
As long as they're completed their probation, paid their fines, paid restitution, and they're eligible and they're not picked up any new cases, be eligible for that.
Just a quick question, using the hypothetical on 20 cases, if that's the top end, is that going to be 20 cases combined into one batch of paperwork handed to one judge, or is that going to be 20 batches of paperwork?
That would have to be a separate petition for each case because it's a separate order.
I have a question. Is it a one and done, or do folks, if they do not get the record expunged, is there an opportunity to do that again, or is it just sort of a one-time process?
No, once they've completed what they need to do, then obviously for example, my understanding is that if they haven't, let's say they didn't meet everything, they're not going to get to the application. That's where a lot of the work is done, is in the background by our researching, sure that they have done everything. But sometimes there are cases, and Steve will tell you that they do get denied.
Okay.
And that's but if they then can provide in the future, other evidence that they've completed what they needed to do, then it shouldn't prohibit them from filing another petition.
And if I may, Mr. Wright, would you please explain to the CCP the necessary steps that the district attorney has to take in order to make a recommendation to the court whether or not to grant the petition? And if there is no opposition, oftentimes the petition may just get granted as an operation of law if there is no opposition to it, even if the person maybe isn't eligible because the court doesn't have that information to verify what the petitioner or the attorney for the petitioner might be putting forth. Could you just explain that process a little bit more?
Sure. Thank you. Yes, if for whatever reason the district attorney's office doesn't respond, doesn't oppose, and so the judge just has the petition and a person appears to be eligible, I would imagine the petition would be granted and their conviction would be expunged. Part of the process, my office, when they receive a petition, it gets assigned to a paralegal and an attorney. And they would start by running a criminal history to see if there are any other subsequent convictions or open cases. They would also run the person in our in-house case management system to see if there are any other cases open or pending or subsequent convictions. They would then go into Odyssey, into the court file, the court record, and see, again, what fines were owed and payable, and if there are any due. Restitution, maybe reach out to victims of the crime and see if restitution has been made. That sort of thing, to make sure that the defendant has done everything and is eligible. And if eligible, then yes, we would sign off. Or say, yes, judge, we believe this person has complied and is eligible for relief. And so that would then speed up the process, instead of, sometimes I've seen it happen where we don't get around to getting a petition filed for whatever reason, don't have somebody to get it looked at and reviewed prior to the court hearing. Well, then the case has to be continued. And it gets continued again, and it gets drawn out. By having a dedicated paralegal and attorney, that hopefully speed up the process, the case can get, and the defendant can get looked into, verify that they completed everything they need to complete, and therefore move the case through the system quicker.
Good.
And just to address one issue that Ms. Holt brought up, if somebody has numerous cases and they haven't completed the terms and conditions of probation on each case, they get it granted in some and not granted in others. And so they could maybe complete or pay their fine or complete their class and then repetition again later if they needed to.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, is, if it's denied even at the court or at the DA's level, can they come back at some time in the future once they satisfied whatever those issues were? But
yeah, I believe it would be like a denial without prejudice, where they could, if it's something minor, I imagine the court could set the case over, set the petition over for a month or two for the defendant to go take care of what they need to take care of. If it's something that may take a little bit longer, the judge could say it's denied, but this is what you should do, A, B, and C. Once you've completed those items, refile your petition, and I'll take a look at it at that point.
okay, good deal. Thank you. Any other questions from the CCP?
Yeah, Chief. Mr. Sorensen, just, sorry, I'm not totally up on this law. I was vaguely aware of it, but if you could maybe expand a little bit to help me out. Flip side of the coin, if the petitioner is granted their request and the record is expunged, and then they reoffend, is that forever expunged, or is that back in play for anybody who wants to rent them?
Well, the way I understand the law would be that is expunged for forever. But the new felony conviction or new misdemeanor conviction that would then be a hurdle for them to receive that employment, because it would be, again, that would be something that would be on their record. So they completed probation and did what they were supposed to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate the information.
Right. Any other comments from the CCP? Seeing none. Any public comment in regard to this presentation? And let me ask Brian, just so I'm clear. So the Resources Subcommittee is asking for approval for both the Clean Slate program and the Trust and Verify program?
Trust but verify and clean slate, yes. We included some line item budgets for full fiscal year.
Right. And then you also, you had talked about the RFP for the behavioral health contract. Are you asking for the CCP also to take any action on that right now, or is there some work still to be done?
Not at this point. That's entirely with the Department of Behavioral Health. So they did receive our input from our committee related to the new RFP. We did include a couple of suggested revisions and some enhancements to some of the prior components of that RFP that addresses some gaps in service that we found in the previous RFP that had been in place.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That helps me. So what we'll do is we're going to ask for the CCP to approve the program and funding for the Trust But Verify program and for the Clean Slate program as recommended by the Resources Subcommittee. And I'll entertain a motion for that approval.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded that we would approve this item, and it's going to go to a roll call vote. Chief Haynes, aye. DA Smithcamp? Okay. Senator Tylack? Yes, council. Because one of these, one of each of our CCP members is the department head, I don't think it has been an issue before.
Board member might be, have a contractual conflict or something of that nature, but this is what we're here to do.
So, so DA Smithcamp?
Aye.
All right, Public Defender Tylack?
Aye.
Sheriff Mims? Chief Dadian?
Aye.
CEO Elliott?
Aye.
And Interim Director Holt?
Aye.
All right, and the motion carries and is approved. Thank you so much for your work, and thank you, Brian, for the subcommittee's work on that item. Moving on to our Research, Evaluation, and Technology Subcommittee, I'm going to ask Assistant Deputy Chief Melanie Johnson to come forward with her presentation.
Good afternoon, members of the CCP. At the December CCP meeting, the Research, Evaluation, and Technology Committee reported out on the work with Kevin O'Connell and Ryan Souza from the California State Association of Counties, CSAC, Support Hub for Criminal Justice Programming, to help review and develop the scope of work and to evaluate the CCP-funded entities. Since the last meeting, the program inventory was updated and each of the programs were rated for effectiveness utilizing the Results First Clearinghouse database. After reviewing the program inventory, CSAC suggested prioritizing programs focusing on programs that showed less promising evidence-based practices and move towards the most promising evidence-based practices. This provides a more targeted impact evaluation, allowing a better chance for the CCP receiving actionable information. In reviewing the program inventory, the suggestion from the committee was to start with the yellow area, the second highest rating, moving towards the green, the highest rating for effectiveness. As the results of those research efforts become available and lessons learned, challenges, and best practices can be brought to the CCP could then select the next program levels targeted for evaluations using the data and evidence available. If the CCP board approves, the committee will draft the scope of work to begin the impact evaluation with Turning Point First Street Center and Turning Point Belgravia Center, as they have the highest percentage of overall programming budget and they serve the most clientele. If this is approved, the scope of work will be prepared targeting these two entities in the first year of the contract, and the draft will be presented at the next CCP.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. Just so that I can get a historical kind of perspective of what we've been doing on this, we've been working with CSAC to help us with this evaluation. CCP has been wanting to do some work on best practices and evaluating our programs. And I think based on Kevin O'Connell's last presentation, when he was here in December, he had talked about that we probably don't want to try to do all of the programs as an evaluation, but to try to narrow down the programs that need to be evaluated based on the clearinghouse and where they fall within the most promising or the green or the yellow programs. And so we identified 2 of our programs that fall into the yellow category. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And so talk a little bit about the evaluation and what we're going to be doing, because we're going to develop a scope of work that you're going to bring back to our meeting in June based on this recommendation from the work you guys have been doing. because I just want to make sure that everyone understands what it is that we're trying to do. We're trying to do a targeted evaluation of the programs where we see the most need is based on how much funding that we're expending in some of these programs. And then we've also set aside what, Sam, $77,000 or so a year to be able to do this. Did Kevin give an indication that that amount of funding would be enough to be able to do this level of an evaluation per year?
The way we planned out the map for the next couple years for evaluating the programs, if we did 2 to 3 a year, starting with the 2 largest, he indicated that the budget should be sufficient for that.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Melanie?
Are the pretrial people eligible for all these services? Just curious.
Pretrial utilizes,
They are.
pretrial utilizes
All of them?
all of the services.
Yes.
Okay. How about misdemeanors?
This is for the realignment population.
Okay.
David, did you have something to add to that?
So individuals on misdemeanor pretrial are eligible for all this. Anybody on pretrial is eligible. Once their case settles, however, they're no longer. So we're working on how to kind of bridge that gap and connect them with services, but unfortunately, that's the only mechanism right now.
Okay. Any other questions from the CCP on this part of the presentation? All right. Anything else on this, Melanie?
No, I just wanted to ask, I passed out the data presentation rather than going by each data point this time. If there's any questions. No, thank you.
No, I think, Chief, did you have a question? I think Chief may have had a question about some of the data.
Sorry about that. I did, it was last quarter's stats. Let me see if I can find it here.
Did you have access to that right with you?
He spoke to me prior to the meeting,
Okay.
and so I was able to, his question was the magic stats for the December data tracker presentation. Those were actually, I confirmed those were the stats provided to us by the crime analyst from Fresno PD. I will reach back out to her and verify that those are accurate, but the numbers we reported were the numbers that we were provided by Fresno PD.
Okay, thank you. And just for the edification of everybody, my question was, on page 7 of the previous quarter report, it had AB 109 offender encounters at 13 by magic, but AB 109 arrests at 26. I'm thinking they should be at least 26 encounters and 26 arrests.
Right.
And I don't know if it was just a data entry error or something. It's just a question I had to, hopefully clear up.
And I'm not sure, Chief, of how they are doing their data, but even on this month's or this quarter's report, it does show, 62 encounters and 30 arrests. So yeah, it probably was some kind of a,
Probably key punch error or something like
Yeah.
that. But I just,
I believe
if you
they
would
may have
check, I would
flip-flopped
appreciate it.
those
Yeah.
numbers.
so we'll confirm that.
Correct.
Right.
Much appreciated.
No problem.
Good.
Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Good. Any questions? Any other questions from the CCP? Any public comment regarding the presentation from Assistant Deputy Chief Johnson? I'll get it here in a minute. There were no action items, right, Melanie, on this? Because you're still going to go back and do the scope of work, or did you need approval from the CCP for us to move forward with the scope of work?
Just need approval to focus on those 2 programs for the first year of the scope of work, and then
Okay.
we'll develop the draft.
So what we'll do is based on the recommendation from the research evaluation and technology program, that we would focus our, at least for the first year, on the Turning Point First Street Center and Turning Point Belgravia Center. Are those the two? That our evaluation efforts would be focused on those 2 initial programs, and we would build a scope of work with a potential vendor around identifying those 2 entities initially. And I would ask for a motion from the CCP in order to move that item forward.
Ask a question first.
Yes.
Because I have contracts for the Turning Point First Street Center services, do I need to abstain?
Yes, the board member probably should
Okay.
leave the room temporarily. Yeah, and then come back.
All right. Thank you. And so we can, what I would like to do is, first, is there any public comment regarding this, motion? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the recommendation from our Research Evaluation and Technology Committee.
Motion to approve.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, and we will take a roll call vote. And Chief Haynes is an aye. DA Smitkamp. Public Defender Tylak.
Aye.
Sheriff Mims. Chief Davian.
Aye.
CEO Elliott.
Aye.
And motion carries. Is there, yeah, motion carries. And so we can go ahead and have Ms. Holt come on back. Sam, does the fiscal audit subcommittee have a report? Okay. I have the fiscal audit report. Moving on to our victim mandates report from Assistant Deputy Chief Karen Roach. And good afternoon, Karen.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Karen Roach, Probation, Crime Victim Assistance Center. Since our last meeting in December, regarding the process of restitution and developing our process for coming up with a process for those folks that are not on probation. So that is moving forward. Since our last meeting, language was able to be provided to the court. Presiding was able to approve the proposed language. We're working on our own internal documents at our department to include the new language in our documents and recommendations, as well as court is working on the Odyssey update of the language. And that's where we're at. Making progress. So once the court gets Odyssey updated, then it'll be up to each individual department who sits on my committee to make sure that they update it and educate their own staff. I'll educate probation department, DA will let their staff know, court will let their staff know about the new language in Odyssey, and then we're able to move completely forward.
When do you think that training piece of this will happen? Do we have a timeline?
Once I hear back for sure that everything has been updated with the court, which I'm lending to think that it's pretty close, then I will reconvene our committee. I have not convened since December, since this process has still been in place. There is no reason to reconvene at that point. Once all of our moving pieces are in place, I will reconvene our committee and we could talk about the rollout of training each individual agency that has a piece of restitution, which is all of my committee members. And so since we're all on the committee, each person that sits on my committee, I feel I'll be recommending that they train their own people. Does that make sense? And then within our own internal department, it won't be that big of an undertaking, I don't think, 'cause it's just a little bit of a language change.
Okay.
I think it's just getting the message out there that this language change. And then once that's done, I'll reconvene our committee again and we'll start looking and tackling our next project.
Any questions from the CCP? Any public comment regarding the victim mandates subcommittee report? All right, seeing none, thank you, Karen, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to our adult compliance team subcommittee report out. We have Assistant Deputy Chief Manuel Silva here to make this report.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I just wanted to go over the stats for 2021 year. The team has had a fantastic year with 173 arrests, over 2,000 in contacts and searches. They recovered 30 firearms and assisted with 55 search warrants. They completed 150 total bench warrant services, as well as 33 act probation details. Currently, we did receive staffing from Kerman PD. Miguel Antuna was added to the team. The DA's office added John De La Rosa as they took back Bo H. And Clovis PD still has 2 vacancies, which have been vacant since July of 2021. Notable operations for the year, The ACT team assisted with probation Operation Safe Streets, the 4 separate operations we concluded over a 4-month span, including Fresno PD's Operation Safe Neighborhoods, the Salmon Raisin Festival, the Parlier Night Out, the Kerman Harvest Festival, and the Area 4 Gold Star. In addition, the team assisted with monthly rural ops in Fireball, Mendota, Sanger, Parlier, Orange Cove, Riverdale, Layton, Kingsburg, Clovis, Selma, Fowler, Reedley, Carruthers, Easton, Kalinga, Huron, and Kerman. So the team was very, very busy in 2021, and we're looking forward to a 2022 year.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Emmanuel in regard to the ACT team? They're doing an outstanding job and they get reports, and so they're doing some incredible work out there. So really appreciate the work that's been going.
Right, Sergeant Rudy Reese from Fresno PD and James Stokes from the Sheriff's been a fantastic job over the course of the year.
Absolutely. It's just been a great partnership. So really appreciate that work. Anything else, Manuel?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
All right, any public comment regarding the ACT subcommittee report out? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item I, which is our public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the CCP executive members about matters within the jurisdiction of the CCP, but not listed on the agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Is there any public comment regarding anything else that may not be on today's agenda? All right, seeing none, I appreciate that. I'm going to adjourn today's meeting, and I appreciate everyone's participation today. And great meeting, appreciate it. All right.